again to David Christmas, who's come on behalf of Christians Against Poverty today. I'm just not going to say anything else, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you very much for your very warm welcome. I felt very welcome today, the amount of hugs I got and handshakes. I didn't realise I was going to be on film today though, so I might have worn a tie. Do I need to do anything to the head?
It looks perfect.
It looks perfect, so as long as I don't bend down.
That's right.
Okay.
Turn the camera down.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've come today to represent Christians Against Poverty. I also bring welcome from my church in Worcester, All Saints in Worcester, who are worshipping at this time. They started at 10:30, but they're still probably carrying on as they do. So today I hope you come with expectant hearts. I hope you've come to hear what God's Spirit's saying to you. Not what I'm saying to you, but what God's Spirit's saying to you. And if you do that, then I believe today God's going to speak to every single one of you here about something in your lives today. I want to just start with a few verses from Luke chapter 4. And this is when Jesus stood up and he basically opened the book and he read these words from Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, a recovery of sight to the blind, to set the oppressed free. Just read that again. And I believe today that this is our commission. This is what God calls each one of us to do, whoever we are. To proclaim good news to the poor. Sent me to proclaim freedom from the prisoners, recovery of sight to the blind, and to set the oppressed free. And that word oppressed can be translated battered and burdened. Today there are many people who are in real poverty. There are many today who are in prison. Imprisoned by their debts, by unemployment, by poverty itself. People who basically given up, who have given up hope that anything might change. It says there we're meant to release prisoners from prison. And I think if you're poor and you haven't got much and you've got to choose between electricity or feeding your kids, then you feel like a prisoner. Imagine what a prisoner's like when he gets locked away in that cell and the key's taken away. How that must feel. You must have at the beginning a little bit of hope. A little bit of hope that perhaps something will change. Someone will come along and open the door and let you out again. And as day follows day and week follows week, nothing happens. You get more and more into depression, more and more into just thinking this is it. This is what life is going to be for me for the rest of that life. And trust me today, outside of this church, maybe even I'm talking to this morning, there are people out there today who are just like that. They don't show that they're prisoners, but they are. They're prisoners of circumstance, to their addictions, to their debts, just plain simply to poverty. We hear quite often there's no problem of poverty. Trust me, I know there is. I've met with so many clients who are just one day away from just being bankrupt or having anything. I spent a Monday afternoon in food bank, and I know some of you help at food banks. And in that food bank you see people who are coming in, perhaps through no fault of their own. They are poor. They're struggling. They can't see any way forward. Now countless people today who just have no hope. Isn't that sad? Does that not stir our hearts to think we really want to reach out to them? We really want to make that a change for them? We have hope, haven't we? Have we got hope?
Yes.
Oh, that didn't sound very convincing, did it? Have we got hope?
Yes.
Yes. Well, don't we want other people to have that hope too?
Yes.
Not just hope of a life, but hope of eternity. I'm going to baffle you a bit now, but you know in the New Testament the Greek word for hope is elpis. Is that right? Oh, that's all right. I can go for that then. And the translation of that is to anticipate with pleasure and to confidently expect. Are you anticipating with pleasure? Pleasure of eternity, pleasure of spending eternity with the God that saved you. And to confidently expect. No one knows today what the future holds. No one knows what's going to happen in this coming week. But we have a God who knows that. And it's certain. Is your hope certain today? Yes. There's a verse, I think it's in Hebrews, we're saying we're sure and steadfast because we're anchored in Jesus. Amen. And nothing can change that. It's not of our doing. It's all of His. He is the one that anchors us, and He is the one that confidently will keep us. I'm now, well, I won't say how old I am. I'm 23. Or feel like it sometimes. But in April this year, I would have been a Christian 50 years. Well, that really makes me feel old now, doesn't it? That's only 10% of my life. No, not really. Don't work out maths. But all that time, God has been faithful to me. I can count on my fingers the times when I perhaps haven't been so faithful. But God has always been there and He's never left me. And I had a promise when I got baptised that my God will never leave you or forsake you. And I have to sometimes grasp hold of that promise. Especially like 3 years ago, I was dying of sepsis. And I had to grasp hold of that even in this, God was still there and God would bring me through. And I'm a witness today that God did bring me through. Yeah? So we have a hope and a certain hope. If you read the dictionary definition of hope, it's a feeling of expectation and a desire for a particular thing to happen. In other words, it might or it might not. The difference between those sorts of sense of hope is certainty. The hope that most people have today is, I hope I'll wake up tomorrow. I hope I'll get that job. I hope I'll win the lottery. I hope one day I'll get married and have kids. I hope one day I'll have a nice retirement somewhere on a nice desert island. But none of that's certain. And we live in a very uncertain world. The poor, the homeless, the jobless. Today I want to tell you, have no hope. Can you just get that into your hearts today to realise what that means? We have a hope. They haven't. I want to just show you now a DVD. And it's about one person who basically had no hope, but life changed for him.
You can see it happening. You can see the war rising. You can see the depth you're in. You know, trying to tread water, but there's nobody there. Nobody there. I tried refinancing, remortgaging. That's where the debt started. I had an accident and I slipped 2 discs in my vertebrae. So then I wasn't able to work. I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disorder number 4 and 5, which means your 2 discs at the bottom just totally disintegrated. I used to have a bed downstairs because obviously I couldn't walk. I'd turn myself on my side, bring my knees to my chest, fall onto the floor, crawl into the downstairs toilet, get myself up that way. It took me about half an hour to go 3 or 4 metres. You go to bed at night crying, praying you don't wake up because you can't cope no more. You're not eating food, you're eating dog food. You know, you're scraping the bins at back of Tesco's to try and find something to eat because you've got nothing. I found it very easily to consider suicide, but it was a fault of my children. That was the only thing that brought me back from that despair. I can't leave my children without a dad. I was introduced to Cap. A gentleman called Terry turned up. And that was the very first sign of hope that I had. I gave him all my debt paperwork. We sat there for an hour and a half going through all the paperwork, what debts I've actually got. And he says, Stuart, don't worry. We're here to help. You know, I thought, oh wow, okay. Just that reassurance of somebody being there who's listening. So we'll sit down together, go through what debts I actually have, they'll list all my debts, send it off to Bradford head office, contacting my debtors for me and making an offer on my behalf. Now I know there's no other service out there that does that. Nobody comes out to you and helps you. So that evening, Terry and Jonathan prayed. I was like, yeah, right, whatever. And I started getting tingling. And then one morning, I didn't think about it. Just got out of bed, walked to the toilet, and I just realised what I'd done. I physically got out of my bed, which I haven't done for 18 years without falling on the floor, and walked to the toilet. 3 days after Jonathan laid his hands on me. So, who am I to say? All I know is I know that Jesus has done that. Freely and unheartedly, I says to him, I want to be God's disciple. And in October last year, I was baptised. So I was declared debt free 6 months ago because of CAP. Oh, the power of that, to be out of debt, to be told you are debt free, is such a gift. It really is a gift to owe nobody nothing. I mean, it's the first time in my life I've not owed anybody else. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I've never known it, which was fantastic.
Wow, I will never ever tire of hearing of one life where hope walked in and transformation begins. Later on, you're going to be given an opportunity to play your part in bringing hope into the lives of people who are desperate for that hope. By giving just £5 a month, you will be covering the cost of one phone call into our new client inquiries. If you can give £15, that will pay for 3 phone calls into our new client inquiry teams. Listen, what you're about to do can make a difference in people's lives. Please make sure when your opportunity arrives that you don't let it pass, that you join in with tens of thousands of others and give to the work of Christians Against Poverty so that hope can walk in.
You're silent. Have you ever had your congregation silent like this? I want you to just look back to that DVD and see the contrast. You can see where he was right at that beginning, hopeless, thinking about committing suicide. One in 3 clients I went to had thought about it, some have actually tried it. Because for them, they're stuck in a prison, there is no way out, and it was only his kids that stayed him to making that decision. He couldn't get out of bed very well. And then he met a guy from CAP. Someone who came to him in his situation and prayed with him. Can you imagine him when he got up in the morning? I reckon he must have got to the bathroom and must have actually thought, hang on a minute, am I still sleeping? How did I get here? I can't do that. I remember once when I was down in London, we prayed for a guy who had one leg shorter than the other, and God healed him. And you know, I saw him the next day. I said, "What, did you sleep well?" He said, "No." He said, "I spent the whole night walking around just in case it didn't happen." But it did. Because God could bring healing. Where there is no hope, God comes into that and brings hope. For those people who are in debt and unemployed and got addictions, or got money problems, CAP walks into that situation and brings hope with them. I'll just tell you 2 stories. I've got time for 2 stories? Of course I have. You don't want to go home to your lunch yet, do you? No, my wife's cooking mine, so that's all right. Hopefully, if not, it might be the chippy on the way home. I once went to a lady called Natalie. Natalie had escaped from a abused marriage, managed to get away from her husband, and now ended up in a flat. She'd incurred loads of debts, none of which were hers. He had put all the debts in her name. I remember the first day when she opened the door, I saw a woman in her late 20s who looked like she was 95. She had, her eyes just looked dead, the shoulders were drooped. It was like the whole world was on her shoulders. She couldn't smile, she couldn't laugh. She just sat there and just listened. You know, as that first meeting went on, she started to sit more upright. Because I could tell her that Christians Against Poverty, whatever the debt she had, we could deal with and we could sort out for her. By the end of the second meeting, when we put all the paperwork on the table, and there was a fair bit, I took one bit after another away and there was nothing left. She was crying. And I said, why are you crying? She said, because I just now realised that this is what's going to happen. That all my debts are going to get taken away and they're going to get rid of. And I can actually start to live again. Hope has started to walk into her life. She has started to believe there was actually a way out of her prison. Can you imagine someone who's been in that for a long time, and you open the cell door and say, off you go then, you're free. Half the time people don't believe it, do they? I can't believe it. I've tried so many ways to get out of my debt. So many answers I've tried and none's worked. And then after a while they realise it is true. She now worships in our church. Last year, April last year, we had an event. And at the end the evangelist said, does anyone want to accept Jesus? And she did. And now she's going to work in the kids' work. She's now still not debt-free, but she's working towards it. But the change in her, I always wished I'd taken a picture of the before and after. Because you wouldn't have recognised, you would actually not have said that this was the same woman. She's got a smile on her face, she's bouncy, she's got life. And I think just looking into her eyes, you can actually see that there's life there now. There's that hope. She would have had that hope at least of getting out of debt, but she's got more of that now. She's got a hope that's certain. And the other person is John. Now, John, 2007, had a nervous breakdown because of his marriage situation. And basically, he wasn't in a very good place. And he tried to hold everything together. And then, I think about a year later, he got all these letters from the council saying, we reckon that you got paid benefits when you weren't owed benefits. And we want it back. Do you imagine what that felt like to him? He was already in the bottom. He was already depressed and everything else. And since 2007, he'd been fighting the council saying this is unfair. By the time I saw him last year, that amounted to over £20,000. I know that first meeting when I walked in, he had tried everything, exhausted every avenue to get that sorted. And he hadn't found an answer. There was a man who had no hope. Even when I said to him, we can sort it, still didn't believe it. Until the last meeting when I said, because you weren't committed a fraud, we can get rid of all those debts for you. And he was very quiet. And he started to cry. Because suddenly he began to realise that hope had walked into his life. And his life would be different. He's going through bankruptcy now, which will take quite a while to take place. The other thing he needed was his bike had fallen to bits. So I actually put that thing on Facebook. I do media. I do that sort of thing sometimes. I'm not into Twitter or anything, but I don't know what that is. And someone offered me a bike, brand new, because they're moving to Australia. I remember the day I took it over and I said, I've got a present for you. And I gave him this bike. And he was absolutely gobsmacked. You know, we, as Christians, and certainly for Christians Against Poverty, it's more than just doing the things we have to do. It's actually giving love to that person, meeting their needs, saying, look, we can help you in this situation. We can pray with them, just like that gentleman did. I prayed for a lady once and I went back the following week. How was she back? Oh, it's wonderful. I said, well, there you go, God's healed you. He said, no, I think it was just coincidence, it was just a twinge. But for him, that was miraculous. There was nothing else you could say, but that was miraculous. So Christians Against Poverty, we walk in where there is no hope, and we change things. Christians Against Poverty have over 300 debt centres. 2,500 people go debt-free every year. That is 8 a month. 8 a day, rather. Not a month. 8, my maths is terrible. 8 a day. So today, 8 people in this country will get a phone call, or tomorrow probably, to say, you are now debt-free. Can you imagine what that feels? Like he said on there, didn't it? He was just blown away by the fact that he's now debt-free. It's all sorted, it's done and dusted. I'm not going to get those phone calls. I'm not going to get people knocking on my door. I can start to live again. We also do job clubs, of which 38% have found jobs as a result of CAP. And they've kept those jobs. They're not just moving one job to another. We have release groups, which are called Fresh Start, to help people with addictions. And most of those, at least a third, have actually understood how to cope with their addictions. Some of those have been miraculously healed of their addictions. We also have life skills, which is something that it basically equips people to deal with their budget. So you're going to start doing CAP money. I know you are, aren't you? Don't look blankly at me. But when you do CAP money, you will learn how to budget, right? But then a lot of people are saying, well, if I can budget through CAP money, what about, how am I going to do that? How am I going to put into practice? How can I make meals that, how can I save money, etc.? So life skills often goes coupled and hand in hand with that. So Christians Against Poverty today are walking into places where there is no hope and lives are being changed. And the wonderful thing today is that you are starting that journey of partnering with CAP. Because that's what it means. If you sign up to do CAP money, you're now part of the CAP family. You are part of that organisation. You are part of a Christian charity that actually makes a difference, who is trying very hard to make a difference in politics, to change the laws, to change the rules, but making changes in individual lives. Did I touch something? Or is that just for my 5-minute warning? So what is CAP money? You've probably heard Tim speak about it quite a bit. But I'm here today to encourage you that this is an incredible opportunity to get your budgeting sorted. Or you might sit here today and say, I've got no problem with budgeting. I know where my money goes. And do you know, in today's society, when it's so easy to spend money, you could spend 100 quid just by 3 times putting your card on the machine with contactless. You haven't got a clue what you spend until you look at your bank account and it's, oh dear, I've overspent again. And that's what it's all about. And I think today's society, you need that even more than perhaps you did in the old days. I know my mum used to have 2 tins on the mantelpiece and she'd put money in each tin. Some of you are nodding, you've probably been there. And that would be to cover the electric and the gas and the rent and whatever was needed. And that was their way of budgeting. But today we don't. Today, if we're not careful, we get caught up in the society in which we live, where to spend is what we need to do. So CAP money enables you to control your finances rather than the other way round. Sometimes people are controlled by their finances themselves. A few people have made comments. Mark says, since completing the money course, I've used the budget to save, spend model to get a grip on my finances. Another, I was able to go on holiday for the first time in years, pay for Christmas and even pay for my wedding. Because he learnt how to budget. He learnt how he could actually make ends meet. Some of my clients are finding it amazed when once we take all the details and we say to them, this is how much you need to pay to sort your debts out. They say, well, where's that come from? And when you look at the budget, it's actually there. But they haven't been used to doing that. And they learn those budgeting skills. And Annie says, it changed my life. Hope for a better future. Do you know, a lot of the clients I have started with bad management of money, started with bad budgeting, then they got into debt and perhaps lost a job or got addictions. So what you do when you do CAP money courses, and you encourage others to come to CAP money course, is you may help them never to get into debt or to lose their job or other things. I would encourage you today to sign up to that piece of paper at the back. I'm going to look, before I go. I'm not going to be embarrassing by saying, put your hands up. I did that once and no one did, which was a bit sad, but they did sign up in the end. And the taster is not on the 23rd, was it 27th of March? It's the 27th of February, isn't it?
Taster's on the 17th, which is next Sunday evening.
Yeah. The
course is on the 27th.
27. So you've got that. Taster next week, the other one on the following week. Yeah? Okay. So I hope today, if nothing else, your hearts might have been stirred. I don't know what God's been saying to you. Maybe for the first time, He's saying to you, there's people like this out there. There are people like that perhaps in your family, in your street, in your neighbourhood, in your workplace. You're actually locked into a prison with no hope. And then He's saying to you, those people are like that, but you have the key with God's help and by His Spirit. You can bring hope where there is no hope. You can enable people by God's Spirit to have their lives changed. I know already you're reaching out to the community with Food Bank and the homeless. But trust me, there's going to be more need for that in the future. It's not going to get better, I think it's going to get worse. At Food Bank we're preparing for the inevitable this year. We had a 30% increase just in the last few months, and that's going to get more. So I would ask you today to seriously consider what God's saying to you. Even if it's only today, He's saying, sign up to Cap Money course. Because that's the beginning. That would encourage Tim, but more than anything, it would revolutionise and change your life. Those people who have done Cap Money have said they came to it with some reluctance. But when they had done it, they realised the difference it made to them. The amount of money they could save. The amount of money they could spend on the things they wanted to spend on. And the other thing too is God calls us to be stewards of everything. Good stewards. Whether that's of our money or the gifts He's given us. Everything we have is given by Him. We may have earned it, but He gave us help so we could do it. And what God says is, I want you to be good stewards of that. And part of that is to learning how to control your money and how to budget. And the other thing is, maybe you want to help the Cap family even wider. So I've got a message from you all the way from Bradford. How about that? Came on my phone, it wasn't by pigeon post. So listen to this. We have a huge vision to see every UK church playing their part in tackling poverty in this country. Over half of our funding comes through our 29,000 regular supporters that we call Life Changers. We give on average £15 a month and believe, just like you, that the church should be at the forefront of social change. That everyone should be given a chance to find faith. Because of them, we have been able to reach and give hope to 147,000 people. Without that, we couldn't have done it. And we wouldn't be able to continue what we do. However, as we're growing and expanding to meet the increase in demand of our work, we believe that even more lives will be impacted. So we need even more people to stand in that group. Whether you choose to give £15 a month, which is basically a cup of coffee each week, that depends where you go for coffee, I suppose, or any other amount, every single pound does bring hope. If you can stretch to £50 a month or more, you will become part of a group of 200 what they call vision sponsors, getting the inside tracks on their latest developments via personal monthly updates from CAP's founder, who was actually on the end of that film or that DVD. Please remember, our heart is for the local church. So please consider this over and above your church giving. And if you aren't yet giving to this church, then can I encourage you to consider that first before giving to CAP. What CAP doesn't want to do is impoverish a church. What CAP wants to do is say, this is important. Without that giving, we can't do what we do. Wherever that might be. It always might be the feeding of the 5,000. The little lad didn't have much, did he? But what he had, he offered. And what did Jesus do with it? Blessed it. He brought hope. No, he brought food to those people. But he also brought them hope, didn't he? So consider that for today. But also consider how else you can get involved in your community. To reach out to those that are in need. To pray for Tim as they start this course and the coaches that are helping him. That they might be blessed by God, that He might give them inspiration. restoring dignity and respect to their lives, a place in the sun. Just repeat that again. He puts poor people on their feet again. He rekindles burned out lives with fresh hope, restoring dignity and respect to their lives. For them now, a place in the sun. I have a bookstore at the back, and believe it or not, the books are free. I will give you one if you wish. The life story of Cap, or just stories of how people's lives have been changed. Also have forms if you want to become a life changer, but that's another point. So thank you for listening. Thank you for the welcome. And I trust I will hear great things from Tim in the future. And especially after I leave today, to see that list. And you have to put another list up because it's already full. No? They're smiling, but I'm not sure that's a smile of agreement or that's just a smile of maybe not. But think about it seriously, okay? It will make a difference to you. And welcome to the CAP family. Amen.